Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Namovsky. On today's episode, we discuss the abilities of female athletes and the personal and social benefits that females gain from their involvement in Special Olympics. So, Jacqueline, before we went to break, we were talking about 50-50. I want to talk about the 2019 Abu Dhabi World Games because they made a notable change in female participation. How were females represented in different ways than before?
Yeah, it's the Abu Dhabi Games really were an inflection point in female participation for us. And what we saw is that there were female teams represented in countries that had not brought female teams to the games before. I had mentioned the Berlin Games. I had mentioned the games that we had we had the USA Cup in Detroit, and we saw this shift as well. But it really, when you go back to Abu Dhabi, that was the starting point. And so, for example, again, Saudi brought a basketball team, and their representation was amazing. So if you look at what happened in 2019, there were 24 women from Saudi Arabia. If you go back to 2012, there are only 2 women. It's dramatic progress. And really, when you think about, gender equity is one of the most important things that sport can do. Sport is one of the best leveling forces for society. And when it comes to women and start thinking about equal opportunities, there's something about sport that really resonates with the rest of society, our male peers, where once they see women performing in athletics, it's an equalizing. There's data, and there's lots of data, social science data to support this. That there's a notion of, okay, yeah, we're all equal because we can all compete on the soccer field.
So we're talking about being all equal. However, there are some barriers. So what are the barriers that keep women from being involved?
Well, it's interesting because one of the most important barriers is just an understanding, in particular for those with intellectual disabilities, that the opportunities even exist. And once they do find out that those opportunities exist, there are some things that we need to do a better job with and provide, even, like locker rooms or places to change, or really just, quite often in places around the world, just understanding that there are some health needs that women have through sanitary products and other things that really you wouldn't think come into play, sitting here in where we are right now, but they do come into play in other parts of the world, and girls need to be helped to understand that those should not be barriers to them participating in sports. So there's a whole range of things, from the individual health all the way to creating facilities to make them feel included. And as we continue to see shifts in countries like Saudi, just an openness in societies that girls really have a right to participate in athletics, and there are huge benefits to them as individuals in society if they do so.
So what initiatives or programs exist to promote and encourage female involvement in Special Olympics at both the athlete and the coaching levels?
Yeah. So there's a number of initiatives that really focus specifically on just delivering programming to girls. And we do this in a couple of different environments. We do this most often in countries that are less developed, because that's really where there's the most progress to be made. And we work with the coaches, and we work with our local organizing people to really just develop programming specifically for girls. And there are a range of, soccer or football, known as football around the world, is a big sport, but there are many other sports that typically have been thought they're more team sports, but even basketball, where we're really starting to open up the doors for those sports. So moving away from some of the more traditional female sports, like, for instance, dance and others in those countries. But then when you shift and you look at, if you look in other more developed countries, It really is the dance and other activities, more individual sports, where that opens up opportunities for girls to participate.
I could talk to you about this for hours. We've got one more segment left, and I can't wait to delve into other questions. So please don't go away. We'll be right back to learn more about females and Special Olympics.